how small investors are making passive income in real estate. Welcome back. Now, there's many ways to make passive income in real estate, and what I'm going to do today is I'm going to narrow it down to just one type so we can learn how to do it. But there's an awful lot of ways to make money in real estate, and you can start small and you can kind of bootstrap your way up to financial independence and economic freedom by doing this. A lot of people do it with rental properties and whatever, but I'm just going to narrow it down to one area so we get one, so you have an example to work from. So passive income is a lot of definitions. So as I say, we'll just narrowcast and do one type of property in this particular lesson. Now that doesn't mean that you're restricted. You can do this any way you want to do it. You can do it with small family farms. You can do it with apartment properties where they have multiple units in one. There's a number of ways to do it, but I'm just going to narrow it down to single family homes so we learn how to do it. So this is going to be a discussion on how small investors are making passive income in real estate. So what does it mean by small? Well, anything that's under 6 units, anything that's a single family home. I'm certainly not talking about real estate investment trusts or mutual funds or electronic traded funds or any of that kind of thing. I'm not talking about syndications. I'm talking about small deals to kind of get yourself started, okay? Now, I'm Ted Thomas. I've been involved in tax defaulted property for over 30 years, all right? I originally started in the regular traditional real estate, but once I found this, I never looked back. So I've been involved, and I like this business because the opportunities are much higher than any other business, and you can start small and you can bootstrap your way up. So my students are basically following instructions, and they're learning how to generate income that's going to be passive income. So you'll see that today. I'll be right back. Okay, so in this episode, I'm going to show you examples from some of my students who are really investors, and they've employed this strategy, and it works. It's a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. So we're going to involve ourselves in renting properties if you want to do that, or even better than that, what if we do seller financing and create passive income from seller financing? That way, if the people don't continue to pay, you'll get the property back. And I'll show you ways to do that as we go along. Now, there's nothing glamorous about this business. Okay, now this is not like watching late night television where everybody buys a fixer-upper and the next thing you know, they're rich. And it certainly isn't like daytime television where you see this young couple, attractive woman, and she brings the clients in and they're going to take an old mediocre house, maybe 50-year-old house, and they're going to make it into a mansion, and they're going to do that very, very quickly. In other words, they're going to take a property and do a complete renovation and makeover on the property. Now, I know that these people mean well, but to get all that done in a short period of time and make money is not going to be very easy. The average infomercial is about 28 minutes. All right, so we're going to be in the real world. In the real world, we're not knocking down fireplaces. We're not knocking walls. We're not building extra rooms. We're not smashing things up with sledgehammers. We're basically going to buy low and try to sell low and move the property. We're going to try to stay out of the fixer-upper business because it takes so long to rehabilitate a property, especially if you have to do it yourself. So basically what I like to say to people, let's not just try to put a new dress on an old woman and hope that we're going to have a mansion. It's not going to happen. But there's a lot of bread and butter neighborhoods that could be cleaned up a little bit, clean the property up, and then resell them. So we're going to buy for pennies on the dollar at the tax defaulted auctions.
How better go there, how better go there, how better go where, how better go here, how better now, how better go.
Now, what's that all about? Well, these are properties that people didn't pay the tax, and we can buy them at tax auction at really good prices. Then we can sell them either as rental units to make passive income or to use installment contracts. Now, installment contracts are just like buying a car, just like buying a refrigerator. You're selling them the product, and of course, if they don't make the payments, well, you haven't given them the deed, so you can take the property back. So this episode is perfect for small investors that want to make passive incomes. All right, now in the recent past, I've had a lot of students. Now, once you understand this, it's not difficult, but the first time through, it's going to take you a little while. So if you understand what we're doing is we're going to buy the property, we're going to clean it up, we're going to resell it. So we're going to buy it low, then we're going to try to sell it not high, but we're going to try to sell it low so we can sell it quickly, and then we're going to try to rinse and repeat. We're going to try and do it again and again and again. Now, if we don't sell it, well, then, of course, we can rent it. We can do either way. The idea is we want to get passive income. So my area of expertise has been tax defaulted property for decades. All right, now, the government makes the rules. I don't do it. And the rules are simple as this. It's mandatory that everybody pay their tax. If they don't pay their property tax, the local government is going to seize that property. When they seize the property, they don't want any more property. So they're going to resell it. And this is where you make your money. They're going to resell the property at somewhere around the back taxes, 10, 20 cents on the dollar. So even though it has a high appraised value, that appraised value is going to get discounted. Why? Because the appraised value will stay there, but the treasurer is going to try to sell the property low at 60, 70, 80% less than the assessed value. Why will they do that? Because they want to get rid of the property, and by changing the price, they get rid of it quickly. Now, in all 50 states, they do this, so there's really going to be millions of tax defaulted properties every single year. The state makes the rules, they pass it down, the county treasurer has a problem. So every auction that's taking place will take place in all 3,000 counties. All right, now those auctions they let people know about it on the county website, and they advertise it in the newspaper. The Board of Supervisors will make it mandatory for the treasurer to levy the tax, try to collect the tax, and if they can't collect the taxes, they push the people off the property, and then what they do is they put the property up for auction. They don't fix it up, they don't do anything, they just want to sell the property, and when they sell it, they wipe out, they absolutely wipe out the mortgage and the deed of trust loan. So now you're buying properties at 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar. If you can buy at those kind of prices with no mortgage on the property, how many do you want to buy? Well, you want to buy as many as you can. All right, so why is this happening? Because the county wants the revenue. What are they going to do with that revenue? They're going to take that revenue and they're going to pay the taxes with it. All right, that's the whole objective of the tax defaulted auction. So the treasurer tax collector is authorized to auction any property that hasn't paid the taxes. Now, who do they auction it to? Highest bidder at the auction always wins. All right, but they started at 60, 70, 80% below the tax assessed value. So the county's auctioning for pennies on the dollar. If you can buy for those kind of prices, you're going to have a leg up. You're going to be way ahead of any competitive market. You can sell the property or rent the property for passive income any place that you want to do that. So I hope you're kind of getting on to what I'm doing here. All right, this happens in all 3,000 counties. That means there's going to be at least 5,000 auctions every single year. You see those little white circles? That's how many auctions are taking place within that state in the next 90 days. This calendar updates every single day. I'm here today to show you how to make money. To do that, I'm going to show you briefly that there are thousands of tax defaulted real estate properties across the 3,000 plus counties in the United States. This is quite interesting. You're looking at the Ted Thomas Magic Interactive Map and Auction Calendar. It changes every day. Now, I created the calendar and the map so I would know how many auctions are taking place every day in the United States. Now I can show the little guy how to make money. Most importantly, I created this system so I could have an auction list for each auction 24/7. Okay, now the counties with small populations, they're going to have a few properties, a couple of dozen, maybe 100. Okay, the counties with big populations are going to have 100 and sometimes 1,000 tax defaulted properties, all going to be sold to the highest bidder with no mortgage and no deed of trust loan. So the small guy has a chance to buy properties and make passive income. All right, the idea is these have been around for a long time. People just haven't learned how to do it. So I'm going to give you an example of some of my students so you kind of get a feel for it. So in a local county, real close to Tampa, Florida, it was a sparsely populated county. One of my students purchased a property for $9,100. Now, this was a used and abused family home with overgrown trees all around it. It was in disrepair. Now, the tax assessed value was $91,000. Now, he paid $9,100, so he paid 10 cents on the dollar. All right, now he learned in our training before he bought, don't just take the county's word for what the property's worth. The county said it was worth $91,000. He looked around using the techniques that we taught him to and found out the property was really worth $150,000, but he had only paid $9,100. All right, so he found a handyman who happened to live right there, was a tenant. The tenant offered him $5,000 right then and there, and then payments towards the $150,000. Now we're talking about passive income today. So you got $5,000, and they got payments until the $150,000 is paid off. Folks, if you get those kind of payments, it's going to last decades. So ask yourself, how many deals like that would you have to do? If you bought it for $9,100 and you were able to sell it for $150,000. Now, I don't know that every deal is going to be that good, but getting that passive income during all those years would make an awful lot of people happy. All right, so the monthly rent or selling the price and getting it, and as an option, that's money they're going to get, or even selling it outright. In all cases, you're going to end up with a lot of passive income. Remember, the mortgage and the deed of trust, those loans have been removed from the property. All right, let's talk about my friend Bill. What's Bill do? Well, I call him BB. Okay, he finds properties of value $100,000. All right, what does he do? He tries to buy them at 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. So let's say he buys it for $25,000. What can he do with it? Well, he can rent it if you want. Well, rent is a passive way to make money. So sure enough, if he rents it for $1,000, he doesn't have a mortgage. He doesn't have a lien on it. Why? Because the mortgage and the deed of trust are wiped out. So if he only has to pay maintenance and he only has to pay some taxes, he's probably going to have a significant, maybe $600 or $800 left over. You're getting the idea. Let me give you another quick example. All right, so let's say my client, Mr. BB, he goes to the auction and he gets it for 10 cents on the dollar. So at a tax assessed value up here of $50,000, he gets it for 10 cents. All right, that's $5,000. So now he's in the property right. What's he going to do with it? Well, if he wants to rent it or he wants to sell it, he can do whatever he wants with that property. So he owns it at 10 cents on the dollar. So let's say he decides to sell it. He wants to get passive income. So instead of trying to get $50,000, he sells it for $30,000. Will it sell quickly? Well, of course it will, because anybody can go check the assessed value. So he sells it quickly, except he asks for a down payment, and then he's willing to give an installment contract. So the installment contract, so he gets $5,000 in his hand, and now he's got all his money back. Now, the installment contract, he's going to get payments of $350 a month for 10 years. Now, think about that. Let's do the math on that. So let's take 10 years of financing, all right, at $350. How much is that going to be? Wow, $42,000. Add back in his down payment. He's going to get $47,000 over a 10-year period of time. Folks, this is a business you want to be in. That's kind of being an armchair banker, isn't it? You're sitting there, you're getting payments for all those years on a $5,000 investor. You'd be a pretty savvy investor if you did that and use your credit card, which is exactly what he did. Now, I'm running out of time. I do want to mention these are mistakes you want to miss. Don't buy a property unless you've looked at it. What if there was a hurricane? What if there was a flood? What if there was a fire? What if it was next to a pig farm? You wouldn't want those properties. So always look. All right, while you're looking, check out the market values around there so you don't bid too high. Now, right below me, if you'd like to have a sample auction list, you can order one of those right below me. I'm Ted Thomas. Don't forget, request